segment in a series that we're doing here on the CSRM podcast on the martial arts. We are together at the Reach Gathering, which we would hope that you would come to next year. These were two of our presenters in a track on the martial arts for the local church, sports, rec, and fitness. This is the kind of thing that you would get at Reach if you would come and join us and join the world. I think we've had maybe 20 countries here, a number of countries from Africa, Montenegro, Canada, California. Sorry, Roger, but yes, we've got a number of folks from a lot of places.
Kenya.
Yeah, Kenya, all over. We've talked in our last segment. We got to know where it came from, why it's called martial arts, what all these decorative uniforms are, the difference between grandmaster and master and black belt and white belt. And if you didn't join us, we have Grandmaster Manny and Master Heath. Is it Master? Do I have it right?
It's Senior Master.
Senior Master. I know I didn't quite have it right. And so they're helping us understand this. And I'm going to start, Manny, with you just to say that there's some people out there in the church and they're saying martial arts and Christianity, just that's antithetical, it may be heretical. Talk to that person. Last segment, you showed us with all of your symbolism, the Trinity. You've got a master, his name is Jesus. You're a servant master. You're all... Okay, but are we kind of giving some of the Christianity away here? Are we compromising? Help us a little bit.
That's a very good question, and I think legitimate question. And I can understand when people feel that way, especially Christians, like, is this really something that Christians should do? I would say this, first of all. Martial arts in general, Taekwondo is what we're doing, the particular style. There's nothing religious about our practice. There's nothing religious about a kick. There's nothing religious about a punch. Nothing whatsoever.
It's not even based in an Eastern religion. Is that what you're saying?
The physical aspect of it, there's nothing religious about it.
Okay.
It's like a pitcher throwing a ball. There's nothing religious about it. I guess in football, there's a Hail Mary, right? But really, there's nothing religious. This is what has happened. When martial arts got started, the people that started it, they infused their beliefs upon their system of martial arts that they were practicing. And so obviously through all the years, all the centuries, yes, it has a reputation for that because the originators of martial arts in general, that was their beliefs.
Yes.
And so as they were practicing, people were finding out their beliefs because as they're practicing, they're finding out who they are. And who they are is what's going to come out from them. And so that is today what a lot of people believe that it's still happening everywhere.
Okay.
Is it happening? Yes. Everywhere? No. There are people that obviously teach Buddhism, Confucianism, but here's the beautiful thing, right to the point. What we do as Taekwondo practitioners and what we teach is Taekwondo of the highest level, the highest standards, technical standards, with Christian principles.
And so it is like you're saying any other sport or any other activity, it is what it is. It is not based in a religion, but like a baseball player can take their faith and put it into their sport, you are taking your faith and you call it a sport?
We call it a sport, and we call it an art and a science.
Okay. So people that might have an aversion to this because they think that it came out of a religious background in the East, we can set that fear aside.
Sure.
What is it not?
So it is not a form of religious practice. And I think that's a defining line that a lot of people need to understand. So I serve on pastoral staff at a church in Kissimmee, Florida. So I'm a pastor of a church, a conservative church, and I also have a
Black belt.
TaeKwonDo ministry. Yeah, so not just a black belt, but I lead a TaeKwonDo ministry in that church. And so my primary role there is the next generation pastor. My responsibility is the discipleship of families and of children. And so there was the question, is this compatible with what we're teaching our children? Can we do that? And so the two biggest concerns that I think we see in the church are, number one, is this compatible with our faith because of the understanding, or at least the belief that it has come out of Eastern religion? And two, are we creating a fighting art or attitude, and we're teaching our kids how to be harmful to others? And so theologically, like Grandmaster was saying, the martial arts were developed, and we said this in the first segment, that they were developed out of a sense of national preservation. We had to learn, I say we, ancient Koreans for Taekwondo specifically had to learn how to protect their country. They had to learn how to protect their economy. And so they developed this form of self-defense. The issue is the predominant faith structures in Korea at the time were Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, and yet it was never intended for the purpose of the practice or the propagation of that faith. It was just religious people creating in a way to defend themselves. And so we see the people who established and practiced Taekwondo attaching their faith to it, but yet it wasn't made for the purposes of religion. There are some practices that we see that were intended for worship. They were created for the purposes of their worship. Taekwondo, most modern martial arts, were not the case. But just as a Buddhist can take their principles of Buddhism and attach them to the self-defense art, as Christians, we can take the truth of Scripture and attach it just the same.
And so this is not a compromise of Christianity, and it is also not anything to teach people how to go and be violent.
Correct.
And harmful and hurtful to others. And it's also not designed, is it making your church money?
Not at all. For our church, we had to ask the question right at the front, because the Lord's been working on me for 5 years to start that. I've been on staff for 5 years at the church that I'm at now, and my senior pastor knew my Taekwondo background, and he wanted it day one. And I just needed to figure out where my office was before we started anything else. And life just has a way of keeping things at bay, but the Lord is just, he finally got to the point with me where he said, you can continue to give me excuses, but this is going to happen in your church. And so he began to unfold that, and we looked at the idea of budget. We utilize our budget fully. So to start something new, we would have to make the decision to take something else away or to reallocate funds. And so the decision we made at the very beginning, we're a completely unbudgeted ministry. The church isn't funding anything. And so we charge a very small tuition, which is less than 20% of what someone would pay at a commercial school, for the purposes of buying kicking pads and creating a scholarship fund. There are a lot of children in my community specifically that are considered below the poverty line or even homeless. There are nearly 5,000 children in my county that live in cars and hotel rooms because they came to Central Florida for the dream to be near the happiest place on earth, but yet parents could only get minimum wage jobs and they can't afford to live in our community. And so my heart is to be able to reach those families with the gospel. And even a vehicle like Taekwondo, they've got to buy a uniform. They might need equipment. There's no way they can afford that. And so we charge tuition really to underwrite a scholarship fund to help kids who could then in turn participate in something that they would have never been able to do if it wasn't there.
Okay, so now let's transition just a little bit, let's talk a little bit more about how this works in a local church, because that's what CSRM is about, that's what Reach is about. And this is not something that we're necessarily saying, go and start a studio someplace. I don't know if that's the right word, but set this off someplace else out. We're trying to figure out how do we do it in a church. And one of the things that we've taught a lot on these podcasts, and we've taught in all the seminars and in Reach and all that, is that the more that we can have touches with people, regular touches, the more that we can develop relationships, the more likely the gospel is going to be communicated. And it seems to me that when you're playing baseball, softball, basketball, volleyball, that it's seasonal, and you might have them for 6, 8, 10 weeks. Is that how Taekwondo is structured? Or is it year-round? Is it week after week? Is it daily? Tell us, in a local church, what this might look like in terms of how often, how long. Give us anything.
Yeah, I'll expand on your question if you don't mind. First of all, a local church, I know, as we have expressed already, that there might be concern from the pastor, from the leadership, the administration, whether a martial art program would be suitable for their church.
Right.
Here's the thing that I think pastors and their leadership need to know. There's martial artists already practicing around their community, whether they want to or not. That's already happening. The question is, do they want to be involved to a degree where maybe some of those people that would go to a commercial school that want martial arts would go to them and be influenced by the church instead by a commercial school? Because it's going to happen. Whether somebody's against it or thinks it doesn't belong in their church or not, martial arts is going to be chosen by families, by individuals. So that's the way it is. There's millions of people practicing Taekwondo, just Taekwondo itself throughout the world. So do we want to exclude immediately millions of people and exclude them? And I'm not sure how we would really answer that, in Judgment Day, to be honest with you, that we excluded this one sport.
Now let me piggyback on that, because I think, if I'm understanding you correctly, a church I worked with, we reached out to a man who played softball. And at the end of the softball season, we said, why don't you come play basketball? I don't play basketball. How about volleyball? I don't play volleyball. What do you play? Ice hockey. Okay? We exclude all the ice hockey, and you know what? That church started an ice hockey team because of that man. A year later, a man is kind of drugged to the church by his wife, and they stand up and say, anybody wants to join the ice hockey team? And this guy had come from Canada, and he said, this is my church. This is my church. I don't go to church, but this is my church. Is that what you're saying?
Right, exactly. Yes, exactly.
I cut you off, but...
No, that's fine. I think that's what we need to allow God to dictate, I think, the topics here and where we go. Yes. I really do feel that. So it's going to happen whether we are, against it. The thing is that we have an opportunity, as people that we know what is most important in our lives. We have an opportunity to be, to witness, to tell those people that would like martial arts in this case, what is most important. And if we can have a program that brings people that would never otherwise walk into the church, and if we can draw them into the church where the pastor has an opportunity to go there on a giving practice and say, I'm the pastor of this church, and if you come on Sunday, I'm going to be talking about this. I would love to see you there. How many activities are there that we can draw people, from outside the community, that provides that opportunity, not only seasonally or, in the summer camp, but on an ongoing basis. on an ongoing basis. And if I can even go a step further here, I know one of the things that we were wondering about devotionals for your ministry, TaeKwonDo ministry. We actually got an answer here.
At Reach.
At Reach.
Come to Reach.
We have, and so I think you should tell them about that, because really it's pretty exciting.
We're going to pick up on that in our next segment.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about that. But what I want you to understand is that your church can do this. Your church can have a vision for this. It may not be for every church, although we'd like to see it in every church. And it's a way that you can really make something happen for the kingdom. Now, let's put this in context for you. Our first segment in this, we talked a little bit about what they wear, the background, the history, some of the terminology. This one we talked about and tried to establish the fact that this is really very, very solid theologically. This can be biblically done. This can be Christ-honoring. This is something that we should not be afraid that we're compromising our faith in any way, but rather giving an expression of our faith in this way. Join us next time when we hear more of the particulars on the curriculum, on the devotionals. How does this work? We're going to go next time into a little bit more of the details of how to make this work. So, Senior Master, Grandmaster, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.